In this tutorial, I'm going to cover how I added elevator to the center of the structure, and I'll show you how I put together the one for this, and then I'll also talk about a few other options if you want to do something differently. So let's get started. The construction of the elevator was made a lot easier by the use of this kit. It's actually a kit to do, like, make a little lantern, but it was just the perfect size and scale for this project. And so it's really simple to put together, and that's what I did. I just assembled it, except I did not attach the door. Kept that separate. So I painted all of that black. And then on the inside, I decided to put stained glass images that were printed on transparency film. And I thought that would look really pretty, especially since I'm going to have a light in this. And so I have a new digital image kit that is nothing but 29 different stained glass images, vintage images. And they can be used for something like this, where you print it on transparency and you want to put it like I did in the elevator or in a window or something like that. But you could also print it and use it as part of a collage project, anything like that. So once I printed and glued in on the inside the stained glass images, I did a different one at the top than I did at the bottom. Then I decided to dress it up with some filigree. And what I did is I took these little filigree strips, which were a little bit longer than the sides, but I took them and just bent the edges. Now this filigree is very, very soft, so it's super easy to bend. And I just bent it so that it would fit around the sides, and then it would overlap one side to the other. And I just added a little glue and it kept it in place. So I did those all the way around, and then of course I did one on the door separately, and then I did it all the way around the bottom. So that just kind of really dressed it up a little bit more. And then to give it more of a feel of an elevator, I've added a couple of images to it. You can see the panel in the front, where you push the buttons. Of course, it's only going to go to 2 floors, so you don't need all those buttons, but it doesn't matter. And then you see the dial at the top. Now, those 2 images I have for you on my blog to print and to put them on your elevator if you like, or use them for whatever. And I put one on inside and outside because of the stained glass and you can kind of see through it. I didn't want you to see the chipboard that it's mounted on to make it look a little bit thicker. I didn't want you to see that from the inside. So I did do that. And then lastly, I decided that I was going to have it lighted, and it does come with a lid. So what I did was I cut a little hole in the chipboard to accommodate the switch so I could get to it. And then I ended up attaching the votive to the chipboard by the use of a sticky dot. Now, if you're not familiar with sticky dots, they're just little adhesive, rubbery little things. And a lot of times when you buy things in a store and there's a label attached, sometimes you'll find those little sticky things underneath it. The reason I use that is it's strong enough to keep it attached, but then I can easily pull it off without causing any damage if I need to replace the battery. And then, of course, unless you're messing with the elevator, it just sits right there. You don't really need to worry about gluing it down. Now, the next thing I worked on was a method of hanging this. Now, the way this kit is, there's just not really enough room around the top area. Now, you don't want to put anything on the very top area, the lid, unless, of course, you're not going to put a light in it. If you're not going to do something like that, you can glue that lid down, and you could use that area to anchor some chain in to hang it. But I didn't have that option, and so I needed to glue something to the corners. And what I did was I came up with this combination that you see there. I have a head pin, then I've got that little round thing, and then I've got a rondelle and a bead. And I'm using the round thing on the bottom, the little disc, to make the hole smaller so that the head pin does not pull all the way through the rondelle. So that's the combination, and I glued those together to create each one of the little things that I'm going to hang on the corners that the chain are going to go to. And so then you can see those on the left-hand side, and then I cut 4 pieces of chain that were the same length, and you want the chain to be long enough to go well above the top of the elevator so that you have enough room to get past that center top section. And then I've got some more loose chain because I'm going to use that to put it together, and then of course some jump rings. And now you can see that I put together 2 of these. I've connected 2 of those chains and a jump ring to each one of those little anchor things that I'm going to be gluing on the top. And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and attach the long chain onto one of these. And I'm not going to figure out how long that chain is this way. I'm going to wait until I get ready to actually hang the elevator to figure out how long that chain is going to be. And so then I used E6000 to glue that down on each corner. And you can see there the picture of what that looks like. So there 2 chains are on one side with the base and 2 on the other side. And then just let that dry, and it worked really well with the E6000, and it was very sturdy. Now I need something to hang the elevator from, and what I'm using is 2 pieces of basswood. This is the same wood that I used to support the ceilings in all of the rooms. And I took one intact piece, and then I cut another one in half and glued it to the long piece, and then of course made sure I trimmed the one I cut in half to so that all of the pieces were the same length. And then I glued a pulley to the center of that. I used E6000 for everything. And if you notice, the position of the pulley is not lined up with either one of the pieces of basswood. It's at an angle, and that's because you're going to put that chain up over that pulley, and if you put it align it with the wood, then you can't get the chain over it. And so this whole thing is going to sit up top on the roof underneath the glass part of the roof, and it spans the opening. So you want to make sure that your wood is longer, goes wider than the opening itself, so that it can just sit up there. And then in order to determine where I wanted to hang the elevator, I decided that I was just going to have it at the 2nd floor as if it had just gotten there and people were going to get out. And so of course I haven't hung it yet, so I need something to sit underneath it. And regardless of where you decide you want your elevator to be, maybe you want it on its way up, or maybe you want it sitting down below. I decided the best way to do it was to I took some of my supply bins and just stacked them, and so that I could get it to the level of the floor, and then I could set my elevator right on there. And then I put my wood with my pulley on top of the roof, and then now I could just throw the long piece of chain that I had not connected to the one side. Remember, it's on one side but not on the other. I could throw that over there and figure out exactly how much long chain I needed in order to keep the elevator in that position. So one of the things I did is I did not glue the wood down. If it spans the opening of the ceiling, then it sits there very nicely. And so it also just made it easier for me if I want to just lift the elevator out, and easier to get to the top if I need to replace the battery like I talked about earlier. So if it's just looped over the top like that, it's very easy to just lift it up, take it off, and just pull it right off the wood and do what you want to it, and then you can put it back on and then drop it right back down into the hole in the ceiling. Now, if you want your elevator to actually work, what I would do is I would suggest that you go back to one of my older videos when I did the Steampunk house, where the elevator on that is actually working. And I kind of built that elevator from scratch, but you could do the same thing using this kit if you wanted to make it easier. And in that video, I demonstrate how to put the pulley at the top in order to be able to crank it and use it. And so you could do the same thing, but just put it in the inside of your house. So I'll give you the timestamp of that tutorial so that you can just jump right to the point where I talk about how to construct that elevator. Now, another option that you could use is just to use a staircase, a spiral staircase. And in that same series of tutorials, the Steampunk house, I also used a staircase that I attached to the outside, and I did it to the outside because I just didn't want to give up any room on the inside for all the stuff I was adding. And this thing is a kit, so it's easy to put together. So you could put that in the center of your shops, and if you did, you wouldn't even need as large a hole as I created. I mean, you could do that large anyway if you just want a lot more light to come through, but you could make a lot smaller opening because the staircase doesn't take up nearly as much room as the elevator does. And again, I will give you the timestamp for where in the Steampunk videos, where I explain how to put that staircase together. Well, that concludes the construction of the elevator. If you want some more information, if you want information on the collage sheet, the supply list, that sort of thing, and also the free images to put the mechanics on your elevator, you'll want to hop over to my blog, and that link will be below in the description area. The next video is going to be the last one, the apothecary, and I'm releasing these both at the same time, so if you're done watching this one, you can hop over to the other one.